Okay, question 10. Describe one difference between system software and application software. So we've got to be able to explain what we mean by system software and what we mean by application software. And if we can say one difference between them, one for this, then we've got 2 marks. So we need to understand what these mean. So we need to say something like system software is the software that makes the hardware work for the user. So it doesn't actually, we can't use it to do a specific job, but it makes the computer actually work. So the operating system, for example, is system software. Then we can say application software is software we use for a particular task. So for example, a spreadsheet we'd use for working out calculations, or a database for storing data, web design software for making web pages. Application software is the software we use for particular tasks on the computer. So we've described one thing that system software does, one thing that application software does, and that shows the difference between them. 2 marks. Now we're on to a describe question. Describe 2 different functions performed by an operating system for 4 marks. So for each one, we're going to need to say what it is and then say what that means to get the 2nd mark. So, describing 2 different functions. So one thing we might talk about is managing the memory inside a computer. So an operating system manages memory, so it allocates memory to different tasks so they don't try to use the same memory. So we don't want programs bumping into each other, so they have to have specific parts of the memory to use. How does that organized? The operating system manages the memory. So it'll have your word processor running in one part of the memory, and it'll have the operating system in another part of memory, and it'll have your data that you're accessing in another part of memory, and making sure the 2 don't bump into each other. So there's one that you've done. We've said what it is, and we've described it for the 2nd mark. Another one we might talk about is we might talk about security. So the operating system gives each person their own access so that their data is secure. So when you log on to the computer, the operating system only lets you get to the information that's your information. It doesn't let you get to anyone else's information. Security. Some other things we might have mentioned when we were talking about this is it deals with the processor. So it manages the processor management. You might also talk about the input and output controls. So the operating system will take stuff in, like when you press a key on the keyboard or when you click the mouse, an output, it'll work out how to put things onto the screen for you or how to send them to the printer. We might also talk about the storage. So storage access. So you might talk about how the operating system decides how to store something on a disk or onto a CD or onto a memory stick, where to put it on that device. So lots of different things that you need to know and make sure you understand about what an operating system does. You must learn the 5 or 6 different things that an operating system does. Last question on this, last part of this question. A student was asked to describe what software and hardware are. They gave the following answer. New hardware can be installed by downloading it. Well, hardware clearly can't be downloading it from the web. Or an installation disk, whereas software requires someone to physically attach it to the computer. Now, I've clearly got these the wrong way round. Explain 2 mistakes the student has made. 2 marks. Now, you can get 1 mark just for saying they've got hardware mixed up with software. But that's just got you 1 mark because you've only said one thing, really. What we need to do is we need to say actually what hardware and software are. So hardware is the physical component. So can't be downloaded. There's 1 mark. Then software is the programs on the computer. So this is not physical. There we are. So we've said 1 thing about hardware, 1 thing about software to explain what the mistakes are there. 2 marks.